Yeah. All right. Let's see what I got here real quick and do this real quick. Desperation content and carbon copy piggyback riders is what we're gonna call this one. And this vid is kind of gonna be about being the first to do something versus being the new person to do something. So not being the first to do something new, but being a new person to do something. Okay, so it kind of depends on the way you want to look at it. All right, yo. So what's a desperation content creator and a carbon? Well, the content. We're not going to say that the person making the content is like desperate. And when we speak about desperation, we're speaking about like trying to get recognized, obviously, for what you're saying. And carbon copy, piggyback rider. Okay, so how to spot someone like this, and it's real easy to see the difference between someone who's started something and someone who's kind of riding the coattail of something that's been started, right? Usually the coattail riders are the ones who um, every other video or so they may have a title of not just other people but same person. So that's kind of eventually like a coattail that's being ridden. There's really nothing to say, and what's being said has already been said. So the arguments and purpose is based off this person with a higher status. Usually you're not going to see them mention someone else who has the same amount of recognition as them, right? It'll always be someone who has a higher status. So trying to eventually like just kind of ride that algorithm wave in order to increase view. You know what I'm saying? View count. So why is this being said? So you're gonna think, well, why? What's the point of doing this or making this video? Because you're starting to see the lack of authenticity, and not only that, you're really starting to see the lack of actual compassion towards those that you're helping, and it has more so to do about those who are in that same wavelength viewing, right? So they're probably doing the same thing you're doing, but you're more worried about that than what you're actually doing um in terms of like the substance in the people who you're actually helping. So it's more about the comparison between those doing the same thing you're doing instead of you actually caring about helping. So it's a lack of authenticity and creativity when you see the difference between these two, even if they're the same people, doing the same thing. Not the same people, but doing the same thing. And yeah, it's like sickening to kind of see how people do change up and switch up tones. Not exactly switching up who they are, but switching up tones when it comes down to someone who could eventually get recognition, especially dependent on how they're doing it. You know, and the way it looks. Um, that's that's kind of what slows down things with this is like you don't look at it that way. You don't care about it like that. So you are truly a person who does not get jealous of other people when doing or like compare like that. Like you really are in your own lane. So people really don't like that. People actually really envy when you're truly that person. Like you'll see people actually make claims and say they don't care or that they're jealous. But no, these people you can see because there's no reason you would make content like that. So the starting point, experience, and situation is obviously or was not enough. Whatever it is that happened in the beginning, that was the starting point to even why things like this would play out, and you would have people, having issues with each other. Okay, things like that do need to be covered. Things like that do need to be spoken about, and you do need to hear the different perspectives of everyone. Speaking on that to see if what claims are true or if that really happened, right? But eventually, once it gets covered and it dies down, and what's been said needs to be said, and you realize, okay, there's really nothing outside of that to do anymore. You know what I'm saying? You already kind of covered that and created like a like a fence around that. There's no reason to hop the fence and to add more. But no, when you see that that happened has been covered and there's no need to even cover that information anymore, and you see that it's being escalated even further, that's how you know this is someone who has desperation content. So let's go ahead and end the vid and talk about how to notice and how to spot someone who's doing the desperation content stuff. You'll notice that this person starts saying, or you, because eventually, because obviously it's more than just one person, it's like a wave of people, and obviously people are different, but that person who's riding a coattail of that person who actually was the originator, right? They don't have this. Well, let me not even say that. They don't have the same observation skills as the actual originator because they're paying attention to the originator. Even if the originator is paying attention to them, it's all about the starting point. And at the end of the day, these ones making desperation content are more closely paying attention to the originator than the originator is to them. So the originator is always going to have like a better angle of looking at things than they do. They're going to have an advantage point. You'll notice people start saying the same phrases or slogans as the originator of that substance or setup. And setup meaning kind of just the talking points and the categories you can put these talking points in. Number two, their backgrounds. Now, we're speaking about, when we say background, we're speaking about the way their setup actually looks, right? Whether it's like a computer setup, you know what I'm saying? Will all start to look the same. Everybody will eventually start having the same similar setup, and covering whoever is hot or bringing tension in that category during that moment on talking points, whether it be coverage, news coverage. They will claim they were the first ones to do something while pretending to not actually acknowledge the real originator. The real originator usually holds some type of observation that is so original that you won't even see people's this will be someone that people like secretly acknowledge, but they'll never like mention them. And these people are really, those are like the real originators. Number four, and this comes to the desperation content ones, right? It'll just straight up get delusional. Get mad, speak out of emotion, gaslight, and then they won't see the way it looks and just try to uphold it because they already did what they did. Especially if regarding like a real scenario. Number five, build on an issue that stemmed from the starting point that has nothing to do with the starting point in order to just keep it going. And six, all of a sudden have a problem with this person and needing to speak out because another person is speaking out about this person. Yet, why couldn't you speak out about this person before? Why is it that you had to wait for someone who probably has, a willing to, express their vocals, at a sooner time than you, even although if they didn't, you never would have in the first place. So yeah, that's really it. Just kind of wanted to get that out. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna leave it at for now.